Alrighty guys, we are ready to go with Driver. You are the Wheelman by ViperUK. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over and they will run us through this run and we will get it started. The floor is yours, Viper. Good luck on the run. The floor is yours, Viper.
Okay, so hello, I'm Viper or ViperUK, whichever one you want to go with. This is Driver, also known as Driver. You are the Wheelman, and in the Japanese case, it's Drivers. And in the Japanese case, it's Drivers Senu Car Chase or something. So believe it or not, you guys are in for a bit of a treat. So normally the way Driver works is you play through the entire game as a cop called John Tanner. You have to take down a bunch of criminals and arrest them along the way. The way that Driver got its name, or the way that it became popular in the late 1990s, early 2000s, was this was the game that beat out GTA to the 3D realm. And there was a reason for that, but we'll get into that as we go. Now, I'll try and explain the story as best as I can during this, but I'm no guarantee. For the most part, I'll be talking about the missions, the game, regions, console differences, and a few other bits and pieces as we go. So we were doing the undercover mode, which is the any% ES category, which is the PlayStation version. This is being run on emulator, and as I said, this is the Japanese version of the game. We'll get into that as to why in a hot second. So if we're ready to go on time, I'll give you a countdown from 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, so first things first, we have an interview to do, and believe it or not, the Japanese version immediately gets off to a great start because guess what you get to do in the Japanese release? Remember all the times that you struggled with this game as a kid? Well, the Japanese got it way easier because it turns out in the Japanese version, by just wrecking the car, you are able to actually, well, do something. It was a lot of fun. For some reason, my thing seems to have crashed. I don't know why. I think my game just froze. Oh boy. I might have to quickly reset this. This is off to a cracking start. If you'll excuse me, I'm going to have to skip a load of things here, so keep going with the timer. We'll count this in. It's fine. There we go. Make sure my sound's all up to date. Like I said, just keep the timer running. We'll add this in. Okay. So, as I was saying, hopefully it doesn't happen again, because that would be an absolute nightmare if that happened again. But yeah, so Japanese version allows us to smash the car to pieces, and that's how we're able to essentially beat this game a lot easier than usual. And here you go. There we go. Okay, loaded in this time. So what you're able to do is you can wreck the car, and like that, you're able to do the next mission. So by wrecking the car, yeah, you're able to move on in the game. Now, in the PAL and North American releases, you couldn't do that. And, well, there isn't really too much to say regarding that mission. But yeah, if you play Japanese release, you can do that. So, Driver, you're a ex-racing guy called John Tanner, who joins, I believe it's New York Police Department, and his first assignment is to take on a bunch of criminals, and apparently some guy named Rufus is in the picture. Now, a few things to kind of point out straight from the off here. So, first thing, in the Japanese release has a lot more time on missions, so we'll be waiting around a bit longer, and we'll also have a lot more time during certain missions that are a lot more difficult on PAL and NTSC. Now, the Japanese release does run at 30 FPS. The NTSC version also runs at 30 FPS. However, due to the fact that the NTSC version has stricter time limits, it's actually faster overall than the Japanese release. The PAL version, unsurprisingly, is the hardest version and has the worst frame rate at 25 FPS. Second thing, the criminal thing that you can see at the top left corner, in the PAL and North American release, it says felony. In Japan, they went with the old-fashioned way, which is criminal. Now, essentially, the way that most missions in Driver work are you get from point A to point B. So we're going to pick these criminals up, and we're going to get to the end, and that will be the end of it. So we're going to get there bang on near 15 seconds, and in one mission, you have only 10 seconds. But in most missions, you can can only get to the arrow, you've got 15 seconds left. Just so people are aware on that one. The next thing to mention, now, the PlayStation 1 version versus PC. The PC version is faster, however, it is actually more difficult. In my opinion, the PS1 version is slower but easier. Because the PS1 version is capped at the console frame rate, 25-30 FPS. However, PC has an interesting trick up its sleeve, by the fact that you can play the game at multiple frame rates, from 25 to 50 to 60. I think you even go above and beyond and go to like 120 to 144 FPS or more, I'm not quite sure. You can have VSync turned on or off for the PC version. But the thing is with the PC release compared to PS1 is PC renders much faster, it loads like instantly, and as well, not only that, the big kick in the teeth for PC versus PS1 is the fact that on... I'm also going to take this cop down now because he's right here. So the PS1 version has cops spawn way slower than the PC version does. So because of that, it means that you'll actually have a bit of an easier time finishing up missions, and kind of add insult to injury to the PC version, that the cops are actually a lot more tougher than they are on PS1 in my opinion. The handling is slightly different, again, in my opinion, and yeah, there's like the mission structure is about the same. There is different missions that we do depending on the version, so whether you play PS1 or you play PC. Recently, the iOS version has become a thing for a laugh, and you can actually do the original PS1 route with a few additions to other missions, so desire. There's also missions that they deliberately make easier as well in the iOS version. And also there was a Game Boy Color version which released in 2001 and took up in the PS it took up about, I think it's like 35-40 minutes to complete. A regular playthrough would probably take about an hour and a half to do, maybe 2 hours at most. Now for the most part, in some missions we're going to want to avoid the cops as much as possible, which thankfully we did. Now, you may be wondering as well why we're using the first-person perspective. The reason why we're using the first-person perspective is because this game suffered with its frame rate quite badly. And one trick that was figured out was when you're looking at a wall or when you're not loading as much on screen, it frees the frame rate up a little bit. Now, another clever little trick is there are certain points on roads that you can drive in without being hit. So, for example, this line here, if I line up the X where the two things cross over, I can actually sit on this lane and not get hit by either side of the traffic. The other thing that will actually hit me is the police cars. So it allows me to do this like no hit zone sort of thing all the way there. I do have to be careful when crossing lanes of traffic because you just don't know. A lot of missions do require you to not have a tail at the end, so there will be times where I may have to destroy a cop right at the very end of it. And there are also times when you actually want to have the car as close to the house like that as possible. So the way that the way this story works is very similar to there's a film that this game is based off called The Driver, which released back in 1978. Would highly recommend giving it a watch. And it is heavily based off that film. A lot of the missions are taking inspiration. I think I'd say most of the game took inspiration from that film. For example, there is a part where a guy has to go around a car park doing like several driving maneuvers to prove that he's a good driver and that sort of thing. Now, just to mention one or two things here whilst I'm on the subject. So we've already done 3 missions, and in terms of like the story, we've already picked up a guy called Tico. We took him to where he wanted to go. He has now killed someone, and now we've got to go and clean up the body. We've got to go and sort out his mess. As such, we need to go and get the car that has the old guy's body. Now, we don't know who he actually shoots. You just take him there and he kills someone. And now obviously we're doing the cleanup job afterwards, but we still yet to meet Rufus, which we haven't met yet. So the main thing about Driver is that a few things to point out. So Driver has its where the police spawns are is completely random. They could spawn anywhere and everywhere at once. You just don't know what you're gonna get in terms of like police spawn rates. So that's something. The other thing is that on the Japanese version, the police are easier to destroy compared to PAL and NTSC. And also one other thing, which isn't a PS1 exclusive because this is on PC and PS1, and it's even on the iOS release as well, is the fact that the way that this game works is it's based off a mission structure system. So, for example, the missions that we do are all linked together, linked on one another. And you do that via the answering machine. Now, we select, like, certain things. So you have three options. You have a rewind, a play, and a fast forward, and then a thumbs up. And the thumbs up is you're accepting the job that the... you're accepting the job that the game gives you. Now, if you take the wrong route or you're completely clueless about what jobs to do, you can end up going down a really bad path and completing some of the worst missions in the game. So in Miami, you'll end up completing a mission called Bait for a Trap, which is a lot of fun, I won't lie, but isn't too difficult. There is Superfly Drive, which is a difficult mission. It's actually one of the fastest missions that we do in Miami. Not the fastest, but one of the fastest. And yeah, we do like certain mission structure and make it as easy as we can. And that's kind of about it. Now, if you go down, as I said, if you go down the wrong route, you'll end up doing missions like the briefcase in San Francisco. You'll end up doing in Los Angeles, I believe it's it's like Lucky to the Crib or something like that. And then in New York, you have missions like Take a Cab and I forget what the other one is. But there's like a few difficult missions in New York, Los Angeles, the other cities that you go in. And there's not really too much to explain in terms of story because, like I said, by the time I've explained it, it's come and gone. Now, you are going to spend a fair chunk of this run in Miami, truth be told. So there are some missions on the answering machine, like this one, for example, Santa meets Rufus, that we can't skip. So there are missions that are in my, luckily that are in my splits that we cannot skip. So the bank job, Tanner meets Rufus, Bust Out Jean Paul, which comes up right after Tanner meets Rufus, are all mandatory missions. The Informant is another one. However, the mission structure between these said missions is completely different, depending on what you want to play through. Now, thankfully, I was able to do, I did a run of the All Missions category, which is a brand new category that we made, and essentially what it was to beat every single mission in this game. Now, that does involve having to constantly like have loads of saves beforehand so that you just rewind one and you're able to do the remaining missions. For example, I think altogether there is something like 30-something missions. Now, to kind of make it a bit easier as well for that all missions category is there are a lot of missions that you would have to do you'd have to mandatory do. Like, for example, Tanner meets Rufus. However, before you get to that mission, what you can do is you can do the missions from the other... you can reload the save, do the missions from another timeline, if you want to call it that, and then go and do Tanner meets Rufus afterwards, and then carry on from there. But like I said, there are a good variety of missions. There's one called Payback, which involves you smashing up a bunch of restaurants. I have no idea how it relates to the story, but it involves you a bunch of restaurants, apparently. But then there are other missions as well, where you've got to wreck people's cars. There are ones where you need to deliberately bait yourself to try and lure someone somewhere so they get caught red-handed. Some involve picking gangsters up from the trams and things like that. There's a good variety in missions as well. There is ones where it involves picking a bunch of guys up from a mall and then going from there. There's, like I said, a great variety in missions in Driver. And there are some difficult ones in here as well. And I won't lie as well, this is the one game that everyone remembers from their childhood, I think, whether you played it or not. And just to kind of keep on the memory of Driver as well. So I was saying before about how GTA got put in the shade, I guess. So Driver came out in 1999, and about 2 and a bit years on from Grand Theft Auto 1. And essentially what happened was they were able to come out on top because in 1994, when the PS1 originally released, Infogrames and Reflections made a game called Destruction Derby. Some of you guys may be familiar with it, some of you guys may not be. And they made a sequel that came out in 1996 that was named Destruction Derby 2. It was a very good racing game. I would highly recommend checking it out the year before I was born, but hey, it's still a fantastic game. And the destruction physics that they used was put into Driver. They were essentially like, well, they weren't seen as a tester, but they might as well have been. And because of that reason, that was the reason why Driver's damage physics were so good, because they'd had like several years of practice and they'd actually like, I wouldn't say perfected it, but they'd gotten a lot better at mastering how a damage system should work in a driving game. And as a result, that was like part of the reason why Driver did so well. Not only that, you may know that GTA joined the 3D universe back in 2001 with Grand Theft Auto 3. But the reason why GTA 3 did so well in the first place was because Driver managed to do it before they did. It wasn't the first 3D game of its time, but it was seen as a absolutely brilliant game. Hopefully I don't get smashed up too bad here. I can get around these guys. Okay, yeah, that was a good enough shove. I will happily take that. We might be able to make this by the skin of our teeth. Oh, blimey. Okay, this is going to be a wreck to the very end, so we'll see how we get on. I might get lucky, I might not. We'll find out. Not got long. This one's actually timed where the closer to this you get, the better it gets. So I need to pray and hope. Don't know if it'll see me or not. We'll figure it out. Hopefully it won't see me enough. I didn't. Okay. And we did it. Okay. Thank God for that. We managed to do that with a full bar of felony. That was actually impressive that I did that. But yeah, so GTA was, like I say, it came out in 1997. 2 years later, Driver hit the scene and completely put GTA 1 and I think GTA 2 as well, along with all the bits to it. It put it all completely in the shade. Because of its 3D environments, the fact that it was able to boast a real 3D environment, massive cities that you could drive around and stuff like that. Driver 2 took it one step beyond because you could get out of the cars, something GTA had already been doing. But they was obviously able to get it in a 3D world as well, which was amazing. And as a result, GTA wasn't on top. Like, yeah, okay, you could probably believe that there was games out there that were like the pinnacle of video games back in the 80s, you know, before GTA came along, because it was a time that video games existed before Grand Theft Auto. But before Grand Theft Auto 3, and its huge impact on the world, Driver hit the streets and, you know, it hit the stores. It did everything that GTA couldn't do 2 years prior. And it made GTA look like a bit of an idiot. Obviously, GTA got one back and was like, okay, we're going to make our games in a 3D environment and they're going to look amazing. Which they did, starting with Grand Theft Auto 3, released in 2001. Grand Theft Auto Vice City in 2002, and Grand Theft Auto San Andreas in 2004. Then came Drivergate. Drivergate, for those that are unaware, was when Driver 3 was being developed, Reflections simply... They teamed up with Atari. However, the story goes that Driver 3 was trying to be released. GTA had this underlying hand in the competition in terms of like the 3D environment. It took essentially whatever if there was a crown, it took the crown for best game of the 21st century twice, with Grand Theft Auto 3 and Grand Theft Auto Vice City back to back, within a year. Then came the news that there was another GTA on the way, and it was San Andreas. Well, San Andreas got a release date. It was 2004. Driver 3 had been in development with Atari for at least 3 years and was not ready. So Atari did the unthinkable. They rushed the game, finished it, give it to two video game magazines by the name of Xbox World and PlayStation World, I think it was, and said, hey, we're going to pay you a load of money. Is there any chance that you could rate our games like 9 out of 10 if we give him you? And the guys went, sure. If there's money at stake, sure. So they did. And about a year or 2 years later, it all came out in the wash. Essentially, it came out, the dirty laundry was made public, whatever you want to call it. And Atari got in a lot of trouble and lost a lot of money through it. And that was Drivergate. It was an absolute disaster for Atari. And despite the fact that Ubisoft eventually took them over and made Driver Parallel Lines in 2006, a much better follow-up of Driver GTA clone than Driver 3 ever was, it didn't help matters. And eventually the Driver series went into a state of despair, and Ubisoft decided, you know what, we're going to do our own thing. And they did. They literally said, yeah, we'll do our own thing. I don't know what we're going to do, but we'll do our own thing. So, there you go. So, this is Take Out D'Angio's car. And that is how you take out D'Angio. So D'Angio is a guy that was within the criminal network, and we got told to take him out, so we do. Now, can I just bring you back up to scratch with the story here for 2 seconds, because this is very important. So, we met Rufus, this guy in Rufus. He says, look, we're going to need to bust out this French cat. He's being, transported by the police. We need to bust him out of prison. Out the police car. Obviously, you saw we bust out Jean-Paul. Then we took out D'Angio, who was an informant. However, whilst all this was going on, Rufus has a girlfriend called Jessie, who you can now see her name is on screen. And Jessie needs to be caught because she has done the unthinkable. I keep saying unthinkable like it's now just, public knowledge. But essentially what had happened was she decided to shoot Rufus, and she's essentially a murderer. So because of this, obviously Tanner being the cop that he is, like, right, I'm gonna have to chase her down. So this is where this mission comes in. Rufus has been shot, and we now need to catch her. So this is what we're doing. Now the fun part is, these police are infinite spawning. It's funny when you do lose them like this. So the fun part here now is that you drive along here about the same rate as them. Keep dead close to the wall here. And this actually allows for you to keep ahead of the tram. Now, on missions as well, this is something that Driver did a lot when it first started. Was it did this, which was it has a no kill zone essentially. So on some missions you actually have to you have these no kill zones where it deactivates deactivates any police that are following you, which makes some missions insanely easy because it's like, it doesn't matter how many police are chasing you, they just lose you. It's a bit like the paint sprays in Grand Theft Auto games. You go in, you've got 5 stars in you, you get your car spray for $1,000 or $100, whatever it is. You come out, oh my god, where did he go? Same thing, except the game does it rather than you go in somewhere and you pay for it. It just happens automatically on this one. Anyway, with Miami out of the way, we now move into San Francisco. And this is the second city, which fortunately has a few shorter missions. It does have a few more mandatory missions as well. And as well has a little bit of trivia. So we'll get to the mission in due time. But one of the missions in San Francisco is called the Mercy mission. And it has a cutting room floor secret, which we'll get to in due time. But for now, what we've got to do is pick up a bunch of guys from the casino down here. And the other thing as well, I mentioned before about how we're always like looking to the side and we're always playing first person to allow the frame rate to be as good as possible. This is also the reason you see me like looking to the left or the right, or even like now like looking towards the wall, because there's nothing in front of me, and also, well, the frame rate is unlocked as well, if I can call it unlocked. It's freed up a fair bit. Now the fun thing is here is these tram lines, because there's no tram going the other way. There's a tram on the opposite side, so if we're in the same one as that, the tram will now go past, there you go, and we won't hit it. And we can actually stay on here. Now, obviously, the police will try and take us down and everything like that, so we will have to swerve and avoid them. But for the most part, you can actually stay on here and not get hit, which is quite useful. And there's a line as well on the roads that we're going to use in a second, which allows us to not get hit by any cars or anything like that. So I line myself up on this one here. The only thing you do have to be careful of, as I was saying before, is you do need to be careful of junctions, because cars will stop and go for no reason. Some will want to move, some won't. In that case, the police will obviously want to try and take me down. Now, the ending for this one is quite fun, because what we've got to do here is there is a warehouse and it has an end point here, and it's actually on the inside of it. There we go. Nice. And there we go. All done. Done and dusted. So the next mission that's coming up, so that's the casino job done and dusted. The next job that's coming up is called Guns in the Trunk. Now this is quite famous with my audience in particular. There's one guy in particular called King of Torable, who's usually in my chat, who quite likes this mission because it has a very iconic line. So you can't hear it in the Japanese release, but in the PAL North American release, the line starts with "Come see me down Fisherman's Wharf," and then it cuts out. And then we go to, or it doesn't even say it much, but you can usually hear it. And for some reason, that just stuck out with my audience. So, guns in the trunk. What does it involve? Well, apparently there's a bunch of blokes that have guns in the trunk of a car, I guess. Now, this is, you have to get to Fisherman's Wharf for this. Now, look at the time limit here. Now, even in the PAL North American release, you get way over 3 minutes. However, it becomes insanely pointless, and I personally believe that in the original version of the game, that there is the point for this mission is a lot further away. The reason why I say that is because in the PC and iOS release, when you do this mission, you actually need to drive to like the very north of the map. And the timer actually makes more sense. It's about 3 minutes, and it takes you about 1.5 minutes, nearly 2 minutes to get there. Whereas in the PS1 version, it's down here, and yeah, it's down here, and it takes you, what, 50 seconds to get there? Pretty ridiculous. So Tanner has looked at the merchandise, and we've now got to get to the warehouse, which is the second part. That's another thing. A lot of these missions are broken up into 2 and 3 parts. Some are just a one-off, like you get from A to B, like you have to take a car down, that's the end of that. But then there are other missions that do involve like 2 or 3 parts. So when it comes to doing like splits, for example, for this run, in particular, oops, nice traffic. I tend to like just have the one split for the whole mission, rather than go like, oh, it's this one part 1, it's this one part 2, it's this one part 3, and so on and so on. Now, my best time I've got in terms of like in-game time on this is like 1:30, I think, or 1:31. But that's with like no police spawning right near the end, because believe it or not, near the end of this, you do get a criminal tail. Not just like we've got police on us now, but this is actually I think one of the first. I could be wrong on this, but I think this is one of the first missions in the game where you have other cars, like civilian cars, following you that are not the police. So you get police following you, of course you do. But then there's like civilian cars that will start to follow you, like you'll see in a minute. Like now there's going to be a cop spawn, but he's not a cop, because he's a criminal. Like I was saying, get criminal tails. Now, unfortunately, these guys are persistent, and as a result, they actually follow you all the way here. Now, this is actually the one time that the AI is actually useful. Oops. There we go. So the police and the criminals can follow you in there, and obviously the idea is to not get any police at all. You want to get to the end of the missions without a police tail. This is also why the entire run is RNG for like most of it. If you look after your car, you can just wreck the cops or whatever's chasing you at the end, which is completely fine. But there you go. So the next mission is actually quite a fun one. So this mission is, we have an informant and we have to scare them for information. And it doesn't take long. And this mission is appropriately titled Taxi, because, well, surprisingly, you can't pick cars, but in certain missions you can drive certain cars. For example, this one, you can drive a taxi. So we are now going to freak this guy out by driving at speed. And we're now going to completely... don't know if that'll freak him out or not. I think that will freak him out, actually. That's interesting how I didn't freak him out. Hit the corner. That's never happened before. Good fun. Let's try that again without the actual tipping the car over this time. Okay. So doing donuts can make him freak out even faster. There you go, like that. So he sounds more different. He sounds way more different in the North American and PAL release than he does in the Japanese version. To be honest, the Japanese version makes him sound like way more terrified than the PAL NTSC release. That's all good fun. So, as I was mentioning, we have mandatory missions. So this next one is called Cozy to the Chopper, or Cozy to the Chopper. Read it however you wish. I say Cozy to the Chopper. You have to pick up a guy called Cozy and get into the chopper. Straightforward, pick a guy up, get into a chopper. Easy peasy. Now, I believe the reason he fits in is to do with the fact that he is to do with the police case, and he is a witness for... I don't know if it was for the murder or for what, but he is supposedly a witness. Now, one really fun fact, or one really funny thing that happens, is in the PS1 version in particular, the frame rate absolutely sucks. So there's a lot of times where we'll have to look to the side just to get better frame rate, because as you can see, the moment I start looking forward, well, it's terrible. Absolutely terrible. And also, in some cases as well, as you can see, or as you can't see, the cops do sometimes just wait. So you can lose them before you have to collect someone, and then they'll immediately start chasing. It's quite funny. It's like in a real life situation that would never happen. You wouldn't get a bunch of police. Well, maybe you would. I don't know, but you wouldn't get a bunch of police just sat there waiting for someone to rob a bank or pick up a criminal and then bust them. Well, maybe, I guess maybe you would. I don't know. Maybe that's how it all works. Maybe it is realism for you. I don't know. But still, I digress. So that was fun. I like that. Might have to take him out, give him a quick nudge up the backside. So the AI is one thing you have to master and get used to, because unfortunately they can be a real pain in the backside. The other thing is as well, I mentioned about the police being RNG, but also the chase patterns. So when you have to take a car down, you have chase patterns, and in a lot of cases you can usually get a bad pattern. Now, fortunately, I know most of them, but they can go wrong, and if they do, then they go wrong. As simple as that. This is where the time estimate comes in that I've given. Now, I have got runs consistently under 120, but then I have had a few occasions where they've gone to like 121, 122, because I've just had that much bad luck with chase missions and stuff. So we'll see how that goes. So yeah, so here's the final bit here. So what we need to do here is we need to wait for codes to enter chopper, which will involve us just waiting here. But if you've got any donations or anything you want to talk about charity-wise, go for it.
Well, we did have a $4 donation from Hey Delivery Driver, who says, "Where's my pizza?" And that went toward the poll for which version of Sonic will play later. So right now, 128 kilobyte version is leading over the 600 kilobyte version.
Nice. Very nice. I will just say, real quick, so if you do put your money towards the 128 kilobit version, you're in for a very fun surprise. I'm just saying. Nothing more than that, that's all I'm saying. So, just to kind of move into this mission here. So this is the Mercy mission. Now this was the one I was telling you about. So, what's so special about the Mercy mission? Well, not a lot. The Mercy mission just involves you going from A to B to C, and there you go. However, did you know that originally when this mission was made, that there was 4 points? So, in the PS1 version of the game, also yes, the music has slowed down because the frame rate has slowed down. Believe it or not, it does that quite a bit. In the Mercy mission, you have this interesting case where when the PC version first released, it had, or when the game first released, in the PC version, you had 4 points. So that is point number 1 there. So again, this is a 3-part mission on PS1. But when you get to the 3rd part on PC and on here, the PS1 version just ends. On PC, it carries on to a 4th point because that was the original mission. Here's where Driver screws up. So at the end of part 3, you have a cutscene, and the cutscene shows Tanner in a completely different spot to where he actually should be. That's because the cutscene that plays is the wrong one. And as a result, well, turns out that's where you can tell that the cutting room floor has found this out, or someone has found it out and shared it with the cutting room floor. This way you can tell a bit of this mission got cut. Now, I'll be honest, I don't really think it makes that big of a difference to the mission. It maybe adds about a minute or so onto this mission. But if you play PC, you've obviously got to do it, and I think the iOS version too, if I'm not mistaken. But PS1 doesn't have to do it. However, the cutting room floor has uncovered, or it discovered, something interesting. So in the game's code on the NTSC version, you're actually able to activate this 4th part. However, it's just part of Take a Ride. It's just activated via GameShark codes, and you can only do it via Take a Ride or via the undercover mode. So because of that, it means that you're not able to actually do it in game. You're not able to put it back together. The PC version, as I said, has the appropriate cutscenes for the right moment. So, for example, when we beat this one, you'll see the cutscene for part 4, whereas on the PC version, you would see, you know, whereas in the PC version, you have everything else. So, yeah, there you go. Now, like I said, they did this on the PC version. On the PS1 version is a bit different. So that's all good fun. But yeah, as I was saying, it's an interesting little cut that a lot of people probably didn't even know about. And I was actually curious to find out if there's anything on this myself, and that's how I found it, through the cutting room floor. I had no idea that there was a missing section. The thing is, it's on the NTSC version, no one can find the coding. It's not possible to activate the coding in the PAL version. We don't know if it's possible to activate it in the Japanese release. It may be possible, we don't know. But yeah, you'll see as we get to the end of it. So, we're just coming up to the end of part 3 for this mission. As I said, if you play the PC version, this is part 3 of 4. But the PS1 version has the 1 part less. The cutscene you're about to see will be that one. And as I said, so right now he's right near a building. Here he is. He's at that one, and he's right near a building. But if you watch this cutscene, you'll briefly see it in a minute. He's now at a park for some reason. Because the park is at the bottom end of the map. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. So yeah, that's how someone found that, I think. So, San Francisco. We've got 2 missions left to do in it. So this one is called the Setup. Now, there is 2 missions you can do here. There's the Setup or the Hyde Street Pickup. The Hyde Street Pickup is supposedly a shorter mission, but is more RNG dependent on police, whereas the Setup is a lot easier, relatively more straightforward. I believe it's faster overall if you can get it right, but I'm not certain on that, so don't quote me on that one. But basically, in the Hyde Street Pickup, you've got to drive down to one end of San Francisco and pick a guy up called Ross, who's working with the gangsters, and you've got to get him into gangster protection. The problem is, when you get to the end point, even if you're like 20-25 seconds ahead, or less, depending if you're on the PAL version, you have to wait for the tram to appear. So you'll pass the tram on the way there, but you've got to wait for the tram to show up. Whereas on this, you don't have to wait. So this is I think that's probably the reason why this mission's actually a lot better to do, because you don't have to do any of that. As I said, the police are back, as is the weather. And also, not only that, we now have, as you can tell, we've now got crap weather, crap frame rate. Seems about right, doesn't it? That's how Driver works. So this car park here, that is here, this car park is actually used quite a fair bit. It's not used that much in the actual story missions. However, in survival mode, quick getaway, and even in just take a ride mode, you can actually use this car park to get away from the police. The reason why I say survival is because survival has, well, it's kind of in the title. Survival is all the police at 150%, basically. Their difficulty is spiked to, like, not like I said, 150%. They are insanely quick. Their damage takes forever. And honestly, if the cops were at survival mode in every single mission, then yeah, I'd be very, very concerned. I think the only way you could actually get to that level of like police difficulty was if you played the game on hard, maybe. Now the fun thing is, on hard difficulty, obviously the game becomes way more difficult, but you're actually able to do certain out of bounds on certain missions because you're able to get pushed outside of the bounds by the police and complete certain missions faster, one of which being the rescue. It's actually quite cool. So we're going to lose the police by just sitting here and waiting. Eventually. There we are. Very nice. The other thing is as well with that one is if you can get round that corner going into your apartment, if you can get round the corner fast enough and the police don't see you turning in, the police will actually just turn around and just like go, oh, I didn't see him, where's he gone? So there you go. Now, whilst all this has been going on, back to the main story of the game, because I haven't mentioned that in a hot minute much. So Slater is a guy that is part of the criminal empire now, and he needs to be arrested because he turns out he was part of the not the hit behind Rufus, because obviously that was Jesse. Turns out that he's part of this criminal empire, and any chance to take down a criminal is a good thing, right? So here we go. There we go, and we took him down. I was a bit slower than I like, but that's fine. So with that, that is San Francisco done and dusted. We now move into Los Angeles, the next city in the game. Now Los Angeles is by far the most busted of the bunch, and you're about to see why. So in Los Angeles, 3 of the 4 missions we are going to do, yes, that's only how many missions you're actually going to do in Los Angeles in the run, actually required the use of glitches and out of bounds. This is where most of the big time save came from, compared to several years ago. Now, in terms of who found this, I believe Iceman was the one that told us about it, but then there has been videos circulating around the internet as far as 10-15 years ago that showed this glitch in action. Also, this is the only time you get to drive a police car rather than get chased by one. That doesn't mean that you can't get chased by police. One other thing I've not mentioned yet, Superfly Drive and Steal a Cop Car have the same problem, which is these cars are super fragile. And as a result, like one hit, a couple of hits will completely wreck the car. You do actually have to be careful. So we're going to get all the way to the end here, and we're going to perform our glitch. Now I'm hoping this works. Otherwise this will be a waste of time. Nice, and it did, and it actually worked perfect. So there we go. So what just happened there? The car glitched into the water because for some reason the physics, the glitch physics just don't want to work properly for some unknown reason. And as a result, we draw on the car and it somehow passes the mission. It counts as a mission pass, which is quite funny. This is the only game where you can actually do that. In Driver 3, there are missions that tell you to destroy cars and things like that, and you usually just dump in the water, because that's where it tells you to do it. Now, this is a mission involving a guy called Duval, and basically what we want to do is take him down, which is not easy to do. He's got infinite mass, so taking him down will be a bit of a pain. As a result, this is why this became a thing of just punching on him. One thing to mention above all else is, like, you can go right behind them and destroy them if you so desire, like that. Oh, nice. But yeah, in most chase missions, the AI you're trying to take down has infinite mass. And for those that don't know what infinite mass is, well, how do I put this? If your car was the same as theirs, you'd be able to wreck them just fine. But basically, if their car is the same as yours, mass-wise, if you hit them head-on, both cars would be probably flying back in opposite directions or just hit each other and just come to a complete stop. If you hit a car with infinite mass, when you hit it, you'll go flying backwards, but to them, it's like nothing ever happened. So as a result of that, yeah, you'll go flying. You'll come off worse. So the main idea with infinite mass chase, especially ones like that one, is you want to make sure you're either in front or very side on, and then, like in Driver 1's case, you can rub down the damage. But in Driver 2, they altered their damage system, and you couldn't rub cars down, like grind them down extremely quickly. In Driver 2, what you had to do was get your car in front of theirs, and then allow them to push you, inflicting damage upon themselves, and that was the whole reason for that happening. Now, this mission, the Maddox Hit, is actually the longest in, well, not the longest in the entire game, but very close to the longest in the entire game. It's a 6-and-a-bit-minute behemoth, and it's very bloody long. There is 3 parts to it. One part is picking up the hitmen from the car park. Then we've got to get to the Chinese restaurant, which is where, at this point in the story, the gang that we are working for is now hiring hitmen to kill police officers because their gang members are being arrested, so they want to try and take out police members. Now, the guy that's being sniped, I don't remember exactly what he's called, but us being the driver, have to try and save him somehow. So obviously, we're helping to, we're helping to aid the killing of the police officer, but then also we also want to make sure that he doesn't. Also, if you did just see a car go through the wall, you weren't seeing things. That does happen. I think that happens on console as well. It's always just fun because they always just come through this wall here, then they land, and then they just have nowhere to go. For some reason, it's a funny glitch that happens on the PS1 version. I don't think it happens on PC. One other notable mention regarding the PC version compared to PS1 is the PC version has no original soundtrack. So the score that you have for Driver on PS1 is the original soundtrack. It's the one that Alistair Brimble made himself, and it was absolutely fantastic, in my opinion, and as well with Driver 2 as well. However, in the PC version, they put in a brand new soundtrack. It was not nearly as good, and I believe the iOS version took the PC version soundtrack, or took an even more different soundtrack. Wasn't that good. The Game Boy Color version, I believe, was okay. I can't remember exactly, but I think it was okay soundtrack wise from memory last time I played it. The other thing to mention as well is, well, saying you've got the Driver series itself. I haven't really mentioned that. So Driver released back in 1999. It was made by Ubisoft Reflections, Infogram and Reflections and GT Interactive. Most famously known for helping develop the Duke Nukem games for the PS1 as well, alongside 3D Realms. They were a very popular developer back in the 1990s. In 2000, Driver 2 was released to the public. And then in 2003 we got Driver 3, with Driver Parallel Lines being released in 2006, and finally the last game we got in the official series was Driver San Francisco, released back in 2011, and to this day there has been no official brand new Driver game from Ubisoft. Now, there has been a few spin-off games for the Driver series, most notably Driver 76 for the PSP, Driver Renegade for the 3DS, and unfortunately the likes of Driver Speedboat Paradise for mobile devices, I believe. In the mid-2000s as well, there was also Driver LA Undercover, which released for Java, I believe it was. And one other, I forget what it was called. However, in 2017, I think it was when it started, 2016, 2017, might have been 2018 even. Around 2016, 17, we'll say. The Driver community had had enough of not having a new Driver game for so many years. So they went ahead and made their own, introducing the Driver Syndicate. Driver Syndicate was made by Soapy and a bunch of other Driver Man's Discord members. The Driver community essentially made their own Driver game because Ubisoft isn't making one, and the IP is currently not dead. It is apparently active according to Ubisoft themselves, but because they weren't making the game, the community went, sod it, we'll make our own. And they have done, and the game is still very much work in progress. It is like a beta version of a game. An alpha beta version of a game, but what you're able to do in it is you are able to make missions and things like that. One of the things that I have that I played from it is there is a Driver 1 mission pack that they have made, and it duplicates the missions from Driver 1. All the missions from Miami's Driver 1, which is really, really cool. They've also made and introduced vehicles and maps from other games. I think someone made a GTA Vice City map, which was interesting. But yeah, there is a lot of things as well. People have made custom HUDs for the game, like in a classic style of Driver. And there is a project called Open Driver as well. And Open Driver it's a free version of a game. I mean, Driver Syndicate is also free as well. But Open Driver is essentially just a open beta project where you can play whatever game, whatever driver stuff you want. You can import vehicles and things like that, and have a fun time, I guess. But yeah, the Driver Syndicate actually has a big seal of approval, because remember how I mentioned before that Driver 1 and 2 had a soundtrack by Alistair Brimble? Alistair Brimble actually makes music for other games, not just these ones. And one of the members of the community by the name of Vortex Stories, so shoutouts to Vortex, amongst many other members of the community, Commando 52 Colton, I think it is, along with Soapy and a bunch of other guys as well. Mine and Drive, I think, comes to mind. Snoopy, I'm trying to think who else, but there's a lot of members. I can't really mention them all. But shoutouts to, like, you know, the Drive Madness community. They're an amazing bunch of people. And one of the things that came to light with the Driver Syndicate was a case of, I wonder if we could get Alistair Brimble to create a brand new theme song for a game that's not officially made by Ubisoft, but it is the Drive universe. Anyway, Vortex got in contact with Alistair and was like, you know, look, we're making a new Driver game. Can we get you? Do you think we'll be able to get you to make a brand new soundtrack theme song? Anyway, he turns around and he's like, yeah, sure, why not? And he's like, it'll cost you. Didn't cost like that much, but it you know, it's like, it'll cost you. So anyway, it's like, yeah, you know, it'll cost you. Anyway, the community, you know, got some money together and paid Alistair for his time and everything like that, and he created a brand new theme song for a game that isn't officially made by Ubisoft, which was amazing. First and foremost, like, it was amazing just to hear that Alistair agreed to it. It was amazing that he actually was like, yeah, I'll do it. It was just so unbelievable. It was so incredible. So this building here, you ready for this? I don't think you are. It turns out that what you can do here is you can drive on the outside of the map. And I've not actually had police come out here with me. This is actually quite interesting. Don't know what's going to happen, we'll find out. There we are. Nice. And that is the end of Los Angeles. Then we move on to New York, one of the hardest ones. One of the hardest cities in the game. So this involves quite a few difficult missions. One of which is called The Accident. There is the negatives as well, and finally the President's Run at the end of the game, which to a lot of people's surprise, or maybe not, is the fact that, yeah, the hardest mission, the last mission in the game. Who would have thought? But yeah, so we've got Grand Central Station Switch. That's followed by The Accident, which is basically you have to ram the car off the road, make it look like an accident. We actually drive the cop car for that. Then we have Trash Granger's Wheels, the negatives, which again is a very difficult mission. In my opinion, it's probably one of the hardest missions to run, bar none, at the very end anyway. And then you have Rite of Passage, which is a 3.5 minute behemoth of a mission where you've got to drive across town, and it's nothing spectacular. It's not too bad. You know, like I said, yeah, the President's Run. The one thing I will mention about New York, and it is uncanny as to how bad they are, but New York has taxis, and the taxis are horrendous. The taxis are actually the reason why some of my runs have died. As such, I even created like a custom emote for taxis. just because of how bad they have screwed me over with runs in the past. So it's like, it ain't over until you get out of the end, basically until you get to the end of this run. Because it's not like, oh, okay, yeah, all I've got to do is just do these missions. It's like, no. It's not just you've got to do these missions, you've also got the taxi RNG, and you don't know where they're going to come out of, to be honest. So what we've got to do is we have to get from A to B, which is obviously where we've just got to. Then we have to get from here to Grand Central, I believe, and then we have to get back and make the exchange. What it is, I don't know. It might be files on the gang, maybe, but it might be an informant. We don't know. So the funny thing is, I will just quickly mention, so this game does have cheats, and you can only activate them and you can only get hold of them once you beat the entire game from start to finish. However, here's the thing. Because you have cheats, it doesn't mean that the game becomes easier. You would think, wouldn't you, it's like, because there's cheats such as like invincibility, immunity, so, you know, invincibility being like no damage from at all, you can't get killed by anything, you can't wreck cars. And then the other one being immunity, which is basically where the police don't do anything. They literally just let you drive on past and there you go. However, in a lot of missions, the cheats don't really do anything. They make missions a lot easier. Ones that involve having police chases, they make them way easier. But here's the thing. I did a run with cheats once, and the chase missions are still just as bad. Like, it doesn't solve anything with the chase mission. But not only that, it makes the run very boring. Like, very boring. It's like, because the thing is, if you think about it for a second, so the police are what make this run interesting, because you just don't know where they're going to spawn, where they're going to come from, yada yada yada. But if you take that element out of the game becomes boring, crap, call it whatever. It becomes rubbish, essentially. And that's the main thing. It's like playing, okay, to an extent, might be a bit different here, but it's like playing a GTA game where it doesn't matter what you do, you never get stars. And yeah, okay, playing a GTA game without ever getting the police or the army or whatever for a lot of missions is probably like the easiest thing. You know, it's probably makes the game like way more fun for a lot of people. But in terms of like a speedrunner's perspective, it would make the game very boring to watch, very boring to run. Because essentially you've taken the fun out of it. It might make it easier, sure, but it makes the game more drool and there's no challenge. Now in Driver, there is a challenge, however, again, as I was saying, most of the challenge is taken out because, well, police aren't a thing and you can't get wrecked. That's the other thing. Now, these guys will not stop spawning all the way to the end. Nice. Got him. Just lost him as I got to the end. That was good timing. Nice. So that is Grand Central Station Switch all done and dusted. We now move on to the accident, which, like I said, we get to drive the police car once again. And we get to take down, no idea if it's an informant, a criminal, whatever. But this time, now we've got to start making the numbers count. Now we need to start taking down some of the gang. Because it turns out there is a bigger plot at hand here. Which we'll get to when we get to the final mission. But there's a big plot that's being uncovered bit by bit. More criminals are starting to be involved in the gangs, and criminal activity is starting to go through the roof. So Tanner's like, I need to put a stop to this. So this is why we're doing these missions. Okay, can I still get him? Might be able to. The other thing is as well is that when you're chasing one of these cars, their cars aren't as fast as yours. Your car gets sped up compared to theirs. They'll deturn. Point and go like that. Nice. We've got rid of him. I don't actually know. Could be anybody. We've took them down. They've had a accident, quote unquote accident. So our next mission involves having to take down a guy called Granger. Now we've got to wreck his wheels. Now unfortunately there's a big issue with this. He is protected. He's in witness protection. However, we know he's a criminal, so we're going to try and stop him. As a result of that, yeah, we're going to have to wreck his car. But there comes a price. The price being, well, he's protected by police. So all them police that are going to be on, that are protecting him, are going to be on our tail. So we need to get there, wreck his car, and get the hell out of there. So, yeah, this mission's straightforward as it gets. Whilst I'm doing that, though, if you've got any messages, feel free to go ahead and read them. Got plenty of time.
Do you have time for a couple of quick updates?
Yeah, we do. Go for it.
So I just want to remind people that we do have a bid war going on for Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing J2ME coming up right after this run. The bid war is to determine which version of the game gets played, 600 kilobytes or 128 kilobytes. 128 kilobytes is still currently in the lead. We also have another bid war for a game coming up, Lord of the Rings Gollum later today, where you can choose to save the bird or kill the bird. Currently, the results are tied, so a donation of any amount will swing it in either direction.
No worries, thank you very much. So yeah, we're on to the last 3 missions of the game now. I won't lie to you. These missions are difficult, and even if I make them look easy, they are me literally doing what we call squeaky bum time to try and get these beat. So yeah, this might go really well or really badly, but we'll see. So there's a bunch of criminals in this taxi. It's a criminal taxi. Now he's going to come back at me. I can open that. Oh, he's coming, he's coming, he's coming. Okay, I've got him. Oh. Go, go. Am I catch him or am I gonna? Oh, come on, don't go that way. No. Where did he go? He went somewhere. He's gone back up that way. Oh, well, I don't like this pattern. This pattern's not nice. This is always the one that trips me up the most, I won't lie. Because it's dark, you have to follow him, and then you can easily... But the other thing is, as well as the taxis can get in your way as well, so you can easily just have taxis coming at you from nowhere. Again, this is just New York for you, I guess. There we go, we got him. Good stuff. Okay, so now that horror mission's out of the way, now got Rite of Passage, which, as I said, is about a 4.5 minute behemoth. So essentially, the gang that we've been working for is run by a guy called Castaldi, and what he wants us to do is he wants us to now test a route. He's not told us what the route is for. He's just told us, I need you to get through this route within this amount of time. Can you do it? To which point Tanner has turned around and said, yeah, I'd say I can do that. Why not? So this is Rite of Passage. As I said, Rite of Passage, 4 and a bit minute behemoth, 3.5, 4 minute behemoth, something like that. And all we've got to do is get from one side of town to the other. Now, the problem with this is that it might look like you have a lot of time, but believe me, that destination you've got to get to is way further away than you think. Now, I will be completely honest as well. So, this mission is infamous with me because it is the only time I have ever been on like a 1:11 pace run on console. For those that don't know, so emulator and console are separated out. Emulator record is a 1:09.11 by myself, and the record on console is a 1:13.19, I believe. And yeah, I was on course to get a 1:11 for this run, and then what happened was literally just before the end of this mission, I had a taxi, a bit like that one, just turn up, and it knocked me from side to side and eventually tipped the car over when I could see the finish point, the end point for the mission. And the thing is, that's not to say that like I wouldn't have done it, but to this day, that is the only time that I have managed to get a console run at 1:11 pace at all. And yeah, I lost it to a taxi all them years ago, and it still angers me to this day that I had such a good run. It was such a good pace, and I lost it to that. I did get a PB eventually, and I think had like a few PBs since then, so I have got like a high 113, a low 113, sorry. But like the 1:11 pace, it was there. It was so there for the taking. It was looking like a high 1:11 as well. To which I would have been extremely happy, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm done. But unfortunately, that never happened. So the quest continues to get a 1:12 first, and then a 1:11. On that run, I was actually going to skip a 1:12 and just go straight to a 1:11. So this might seem quite straightforward with what I'm doing right now, but I actually know which way I'm going. It's fine. You do have to drive in a straight line for quite a while without being hit by a black car. That would be amazing if I didn't get hit by that again. I marked that down as 2-0 for the stupid AI patterns, and to be fair, I couldn't see him. Honestly, like, it is pretty dark on the screen. You guys can even see that. The thing is, if you play this on PS1, it's even darker, so it's even worse. One like final key thing I just want to quickly mention as well. So, Driver is obviously a game about driving from start to finish, but the main thing that you always want to keep in consideration is, believe it or not, the faster and cleaner you drive, the more time you save. Obviously, it always helps as well to have a low damage and to not hit cars or anything like that, because when you get to the end of the mission, you want to be able to have enough health to destroy police if you must. The only missions where you can't do that are anything that involves taking a car from A to B. That's the main thing. And like I said, they steal a cop car and Superfly Drive, and both of those missions, luckily steal a cop car is easy, but Superfly Drive is just absolutely horrendous. So, and that is the end of Rite of Passage. And now I can actually reveal the big plot twist for this game. So, the reason why we had to do that was because now we're going to do the President's Run. And the main plot of Driver is finally revealed. Turns out Castaldi's gang was going to assassinate the President of the United States. And that is the big the big finale. Now, if you play this game legit, and by that I mean if you do this mission legit, you'll remember that this mission was absolute hell. However, did you know there was a lot easier way of doing it? Now, again, this does rely on police RNG, so we'll see how we get on. This happens. We're going to get pushed out of bounds, and also get ready on time because it'll be coming up in about 20 seconds or so. Give or take about 20 seconds. And time. There we go. That's it, all done and dusted, and that's the end of Driver. So the whole idea of that is so you have the whole drowning the car thing, and one of the things that the president usually says in the game, he goes, "Nice driving, son." But one of the persons in my chat actually says, "Nice drowning, son," because obviously we make the car sink, and that's how he ends up winning this. Now, what ends up being said in the finale there is that you say the president, and he tries to Sergeant Mackenzie, who's your captain. He tries to give you your police badge back because you've been undercover. At which point Tanner rejects it and turns it away. But guess what? He takes it back because there's a sequel. Otherwise, he won't take it back. Now, I will just quickly say, for the most part, this run went down relatively decent. There is plenty of cheats out there that you can do with this game. So you can see here, you've got invincibility, immunity, this rear wheel where the car drives backwards instead of forwards. It's quite fun. Minis where everything shrinks tiny. Stilts where everything's on stilts. And anti-podium where you can drive upside down, or as we call it, Australian. Anyway, so this is the credits for the game. You can get this in any version of the game as well. But there's something unique about this, and you may be able to spot why. So, in the credits, we drive a Jaguar XJ. I think it's XJS, maybe? Or XJ6 from the late 1990s. Now, Driver was originally made in Newcastle. That was where Infogrames was based at the time. And as such, they made this neat little tiny part of Newcastle available in the game here in the UK. Which is very, very cool, and the credits involves you seeing the AI drive around and things like that. If you have Game Shark codes, you can actually access this city and drive around it. In the PC version, you don't need anything. If you beat the game, you get all the cheats, plus you're actually able to play Newcastle without actually doing anything else. The iOS version, I have no idea, and same with the GBC version, the Game Boy Color version, I have no idea. But a few quick final things from me before I pass it back over to the host. First thing, thank you Running for Reels for allowing me to show this off. It's always fun to show this game off, to be honest. I always have a pleasure and a bit of a blast talking about it for an hour and 14 minutes, apparently. I don't know how to keep myself shut. The second thing, the big mention goes out to the driver community, who are just an awesome bunch of folks. And like I said, the content creators there, like I said, Commando52 Colton, Vortex Story, Mine and Drive, Snoopy, Soapy, the guy that made Redriver 2, which is the Driver 2 PC port. It's unofficial, but it's now a case of might as well be official, considering never a PC release of that version of that game. And also as well, you know, to my own community as well, just to kind of throw that out there as well. My own community who have been there for many, many years, been there from the start, have done a fantastic job of being there for me, watching my runs whenever I show up, if they, you know, and that sort of thing, as well as supporting me as well, just in general. And yeah, big thanks to all those guys for doing their thing and for supporting me. If you do wish to look at running this version, if you want to run it, feel free to run it on emulator or console. Would highly recommend picking up the Japanese release. Again, everything is in Japanese. You can find splits over on speedrun.com if you want to learn this game. If you're wanting to learn the PC version, again, it's quite easy to find that. Won't tell you where, but you can probably check the usual sites to find it. My Bandaway usually comes to mind, but anyway. There is the North American release, which is the fastest version of the game. Would highly recommend doing that if you want to go for world record times, that sort of thing. If you want to give yourself a real challenge, pick up the PAL release and go for it from there. But on that note, I'm going to wrap this up here and hand this back to the host. But once again, Running for Reals, thank you very much for having me and letting me show this marathon, this run off in your marathon. And yeah, I'll hand it back over to you.
Very much ViperUK for that run, and whatever the opposite of a shout out is to New York taxi drivers, both in this game and just in general.
A nuisance.